God has never once given you something you did not want. Not once. I know that lands like a blow, because you have spent years certain of the opposite. You have watched the same kind of thing arrive again and again. The wrong people. The same shaped disappointment. The money that comes and leaves the same way, through the same kind of door. And somewhere, quietly, without ever saying it out loud, you decided the universe was testing you, or punishing you, or simply had forgotten you existed. Tonight I am going to take that idea away from you, gently, because it is the very thing keeping the door shut. You have been telling God what you do not want, all day long, with more feeling than you have ever told him what you do. There are not two of you. There is not a you who wishes and a God somewhere else who decides. There is only the I am, and it has been listening to the wrong voice. Your voice, the one under your breath, the one you don't even notice anymore because you've been running it for years. Sit with me a moment before we go further, because I want you to feel seen before you feel taught. You have been trying. I know that. I can see it from here, the way you can see a person's whole life in the set of their shoulders. You affirm in the morning. You picture the thing you want, sometimes with real tenderness. And then the moment you stop, the moment life asks something of you, a bill, a silence from someone you love, a bad night's sleep, you go right back to the mood of not having it. That mood, and not your morning affirmation, is the prayer God actually hears. I want to name the specific pattern because I think you will recognize it the instant I say it. You rehearse the unwanted. You replay the argument you already had, giving yourself better lines this time. You brace, before you even open the envelope, for the number to be smaller than you hoped. You check, quietly, almost superstitiously, whether the thing you fear losing is still gone. And you call this caution. You call it being realistic, being prepared. I am telling you plainly tonight, it is not caution, it is assumption. You are assuming the very thing you dread, with your whole feeling nature, and you are doing it far more faithfully than you have ever assumed the good. I want to honor the trying, though, before I reframe it, because you deserve that. Trying is not laziness. Trying is you standing outside a house you already own, knocking politely, asking permission to be let in. It is sincere. It is even beautiful in its way. But the knocking itself is a confession. It says under all the effort, I am not yet inside. And no amount of better knocking gets you through a door you are standing in front of instead of walking through. Neville wrote something in 1944 that I have never found a way to improve upon, no matter how many years I sit with it. He said, the dominant of two moods is the victor. Read that again in your own mind. Not the mood you chose this morning, not the mood you performed for 10 minutes with your eyes closed. The dominant one, the one that actually ran the day. If you spent 10 minutes assuming abundance and 10 hours assuming lack, you already know, without me saying another word, which one God answered. And here is the deeper thing, the one I want you to carry even if you forget everything else tonight. The problem was never your discipline. It was never that you didn't try hard enough, didn't visualize vividly enough, didn't say the right words in the right order. The problem is who you have quietly agreed to be. A person to whom this keeps happening. That is an identity, not a technique failure. And identity is exactly where we are going to work tonight, because identity is the only place the law has ever actually operated. Let me take you somewhere with me. Neville used to tell this one plainly, without embellishment, because it needed none. He was a young man, far from home, and home was Barbados, an island he could see so clearly in his mind that the wanting of it had become almost a physical ache. It was wartime. He had no money. He had no papers that would move him. He had, by every outer measure, no way. And here is what he did instead of solving it. He confessed it. Every day, faithfully, he gave his friends and himself a full and accurate report on why it could not be done. I cannot afford it. There is no way through. The war forbids it. He said this with total sincerity, the way you might say the sky is gray today. And I want you to notice something with me. That report was a prayer. It was offered with feeling, which is the only ingredient prayer has ever required, and the world answered it exactly as faithfully as it answers everything. It kept him precisely where his mood insisted he already was. Then came the instruction that changed everything, and it was almost absurdly simple. He was told, stop asking, sleep as though you are already there. Not wish for the bed in Barbados. Feel it. The particular give of the mattress. The night air of the island moving through the window. The nearness of family in the next room. Not someday, now. As present fact, nightly, at the edge of sleep. He did it. And the way opened. Not because he begged more skillfully, because he stopped confessing the thing he did not want and began sleeping inside the thing he did. You are Neville before the change. Right now, tonight, before you've done anything differently, you are the man reporting his lack with beautiful, unshakable consistency and calling the result what God keeps giving me. He is not giving it to you. You are asking for it, in a language you never learned you were speaking. So let me give you the one thing under everything else, the thing every other teaching I have ever given rests on. You are the power. There is no other. And what you fear, you are commanding. Here is the mechanism, and I want to walk it slowly, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. God, in the sense Neville taught it, and in the sense I taught Neville, is not a man seated somewhere above the clouds, deciding your fate by mood of his own. God is the I am, your own awareness of being, the bare fact that you exist and know that you exist. That is the only creative power there has ever been, in you or in anyone. And whatever follows the words I am, spoken silently 1,000 times a day, is your command to it. I am tired of this. I am afraid it won't work out. I am the one this always happens to. Each of those is not a complaint. It is an instruction delivered with feeling, and feeling is the seal that makes any instruction binding. Neville, quoting Blake, put it this way, and it is worth sitting with slowly. Man is all imagination, and God is man, and exists in us and we in him. The eternal body of man is the imagination, and that is God himself. Your imagination, the images you dwell in, the sentences you rehearse, that is not decoration on top of your life. That is the workshop where your life is made. So the unwanted thing was never sent to you from outside. It was expressed by you, from inside. It is your dominant state, made visible. God cannot give you something you do not want. He can only give you what you are being. And what you are being is decided, quietly, in the sentences you allow to run unchallenged under your breath. Neville said it this way, and I want you to hear it as a law, not a suggestion. Man moves in a world that is nothing more or less than his consciousness objectified. Nothing more, nothing less. Look at your circumstances tonight, not to judge yourself, but to read them, the way you would read a very honest letter. They are not random, they are a transcript, so the fix was never more asking. It was never a more elaborate wish. It is a change of state, and I am going to tell you something that took me years of quiet observation to be certain of. The place you change state most easily, more easily than at any other hour, is the edge of sleep. Now I want to pause here, because there is something practical I need to give you before we go any further. and I want to give it to you honestly, without any pressure in my voice, because what I am about to say is simply true and simply useful. Here is why your results, if you have tried this kind of work before, have felt like a lottery. Good weeks, dead weeks, no pattern you could name. A complete change of state before sleep has 4 movements to it. You revise the day. You clear it, the way you'd clear a table before setting it again. You correct the inner speech. You notice and change what you are actually saying under your breath, not what you meant to say. You build one precise scene of the wish fulfilled, not a vague hope, but a specific, sensory moment. And then you fall asleep inside that state, letting sleep carry it past the reasoning mind rather than losing it to a wandering one. Most people, in my long experience of watching people do this work, only ever do one of those 4, almost always the picturing, and then wonder, honestly wonder, why it slips through their hands like water. Hear me clearly. It was never you failing. The routine you were given was simply incomplete. So I wrote something short, and I made it free, because I could see you coming before you arrived tonight. It is called Rewrite Tonight. It is a complete 3-minute pre-sleep revision protocol. How to choose the 3 moments from your actual day that are quietly disturbing your sleep without your permission. How to revise each one until it no longer carries a charge, and how to feel the clearing that lets every other part of this work actually reach the deeper mind instead of bouncing off the surface of a busy one. It is free. It is immediate. It is the first link in the description below this video. Open it tonight, before you sleep, while all of this is still warm in you. Or, if you would rather, comment the single word reset, and I will make sure you're pointed straight to it. There is also, for anyone who wants to go further once the free guide has done its work, a complete 7-night, 4-part guided version. I call it the Transfer Protocol, $27, through that same link, that walks you through the whole nightly routine with me at your side. No rush toward that, no pressure in it at all. Start with the free guide tonight. That alone will change how you sleep and how you wake. Now let us go deeper, because there is a truth waiting for us here, and I want us to arrive at it together rather than have me simply announce it to you. The thing you keep getting is the thing you keep rehearsing. Sit with that, because it undoes a whole lifetime of misunderstanding in a single sentence. God is not repeating a lesson at you the way an old teacher repeats a lesson to a slow student. He is repeating your sentence, faithfully, word for word, feeling for feeling. The law does not evaluate whether you want the thing you are assuming. It has no opinion about your preferences. It simply takes what you assume, with feeling, as instruction, and it renders it. Rehearsal, that quiet replaying you do, half-consciously, in the shower, in traffic, lying awake, is assumption in motion. It is you, night after night, sleeping in the room you claim you want to leave. Let me give you a picture, because pictures teach better than definitions ever do. Think of the person who wakes and, before their feet even touch the floor, checks their bank balance with a small tightening in the chest, already braced for the number to disappoint them. That tightening, that bracing, that is not observation, that is confession. It is a daily commanding of the very lack they are checking for. It is the exact pattern Neville lived before Barbados, a daily faithful report on the impossibility of the thing he wanted, offered with more conviction than he ever gave his desire. So here is what I am asking of you. Plainly, starting tonight, stop making the report. The next time you catch the sentence forming, this always happens to me, of course it didn't work out, I knew it. Do not fight it. Fighting a sentence gives it your attention, and attention is a kind of feeding. Instead, simply refuse to finish it, and in its place, name the opposite as present fact, not someday, now. Quietly, firmly, as a man states his own name, you are the power. There is no other, and the sentence you finish, out of all the ones available to you, is the one that gets built. There is a second truth waiting just past this one, and it concerns something almost every one of you carries and has never once questioned. Your fear is not a warning, it is a prayer. You think fear protects you, that it is your mind doing its job, scanning for danger, keeping you alert to what might go wrong. I am telling you something that will feel strange at first, and then, if you let it, will feel like relief. Fear does not protect you from the thing you dread. Fear feeds it. Neville said it in 4 words, and I have never heard it said better in 400. Fear is faith in reverse. Read that slowly. Faith is total belief, applied with feeling, to a good outcome. Fear is exactly the same mechanism, total belief, applied with feeling, pointed instead at the outcome you do not want. It is not the opposite of faith. It is faith running backward with just as much power behind it. I watched this in Neville's own early years, before he understood any of what I am telling you now. Poor years, a dancer without steady work in New York, borrowing to get through weeks that felt endless. And in those years, every fearful confession he made about his poverty, I have no money, I don't know how I'll manage, this is simply my situation, renewed that poverty exactly as faithfully as any prayer renews anything. The reversal did not come from trying harder to earn. It came the moment he stopped confessing lack and began instead to live nightly in the end of having enough. So here is what I ask of you with this truth. Stop treating fear as information. It is not telling you something true about the future. It is telling you something true about your current assumption. When it rises, and it will rise, tonight, tomorrow, it is not gone simply because you now understand it. Do not obey it as a warning. Treat it as a misdirected assumption, and correct it, specifically, before you sleep. That correction, done nightly, is worth more than 100 anxious days of vigilance. Now there is a third truth, quieter than the first two, and it concerns the thing that has perhaps frustrated you more than any other part of this journey, the waiting. You are not waiting on God. God is waiting on your state to settle. The delay you have felt, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for years, is not God deliberating over whether you deserve the thing. It is not a cosmic committee reviewing your application. It is your own state, wobbling, some days assuming the good, some days collapsing back into the old report, and a mixed mood, held long enough, simply yields a mixed harvest, neither fully denied nor fully given, suspended the way you yourself have been suspending it without knowing that was what you were doing. Neville said this as plainly as anything he ever taught, and I want it to live in you the way it lives in me. Man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. Not one cause among many. The cause, he did not say state of consciousness is a factor. He said it is the delusion, the mistake, to believe there is anything else. There is a tool for this, and Neville named it beautifully in The Law and the Promise, the pruning shears of revision. Picture a gardener, at the end of the day, walking the rows and cutting back what should not be allowed to grow further. Revision is exactly that, applied to your day. You do not carry today's disturbance, unedited, into tomorrow's soil. You take the moment that wobbled you and before sleep, you cut it. You relive it as it should have gone, until the old version has no charge left in it. This is not denial. This is gardening, and a garden untended reseeds itself with whatever fell there last. So stop looking for the external cause. I know how tempting it is. The other person, the economy, the timing, the bad luck. There is one cause. There has only ever been one. Tend it nightly, and the harvest changes, not because the world grew kinder, but because you finally gave it a single, settled instruction instead of 10 conflicting ones. I want to add one more thing here, because I think it will spare you a mistake many people make once they understand everything I have just told you. Understanding a truth once, in a single sitting, does not maintain it. The state must be lived in, not merely visited. Revision is not a technique you use in a crisis and then set down. It is nightly. It is the pruning done every evening, not the pruning done once in spring and forgotten. Neville did not sleep in Barbados for a single night and wake up transported. He held the state, night after night, until it was simply where he lived. That is the difference between a moment of insight and a change of identity, and identity is the only thing the law has ever actually responded to. Let me give you something concrete for tonight, because I do not want you leaving this teaching with only understanding. Understanding without practice is a beautiful room you never enter. Tonight, as you grow drowsy, that particular, thinned-out state where your thoughts slow and the striving mind finally loosens its grip, what Neville called the state akin to sleep, do not begin with the future. I know that seems backward, given everything you've heard about vision boards and picturing, but the future you try to picture while the day's disturbance is still loud in you will not take root. It has no clean soil to land in, so instead, choose the one moment from today that disturbed you most. You know the one already, the message, the number on the screen, the look on someone's face that you have already replayed 3 times without meaning to. Do not try to erase it. You cannot erase a moment that happened. Instead, relive it, revised. Play it again, but let it go the way you wished it had gone, until that revised version feels more natural to you than the original, until the old one has quietly lost its grip. Then, once that is clear, let one short sentence carry you the rest of the way into sleep. Not a whole scene, not a paragraph of hopeful reasoning. One sentence, spoken as the person who already has the thing would speak it. Isn't it wonderful? Or simply, thank you, it is done. Feel it, briefly, as settled fact, not as a wish thrown toward the ceiling, and let sleep take you from there. That is one full movement of the 4, and this is exactly the whole routine. Revise, correct the inner speech, build the scene, sleep inside it. That rewrite tonight walks you through, plainly, step by step, at no cost to you. It is the first link beneath this video. Or comment reset, and I will see that you find your way to it. Feeling is the secret. Neville put those 4 words as the title of an entire book, because there was nothing more important underneath any of his teaching, and there is nothing more important underneath mine. Not the words you say, the feeling behind them. Everything I have given you tonight is simply different ways of arriving at that one sentence. Now, I want to speak to something you have not said out loud, though I suspect you have felt it the moment you tried any of this before, tonight or in some other season of your life. There is a fear that rises the instant you dare to assume the good is already yours, a tightening, a voice that says, quickly, almost protectively, don't get your hopes up. You know this voice. You have obeyed it more times than you can count, mistaking its urgency for wisdom. I want to tell you plainly what that fear actually is, because once you know it, it loses most of its grip. That fear was never weakness. It was proximity. It is the old identity, the one to whom this always happens, the one who has been running your life quietly from the passenger seat for years, fighting for its life. and it screams loudest in the instant right before it dies. You felt that fear because you got close, closer than you have been in a long time, perhaps ever, and you mistook the sound of an old self ending for a warning to turn back. The fear was never the wall. It was the sound of the wall coming down. So when it rises tonight or tomorrow or the next time you dare to assume something good before it has shown up in the world, do not retreat from it. Recognize it. Let it pass through you the way a loud noise passes through a room, and keep walking toward the state you have chosen. It cannot stop you. It can only announce honestly that something in you is finally changing. I want to leave you with something before we part tonight, and I want you to actually receive it, not simply hear it and move on. The silence you have been reading as abandonment, the weeks nothing seemed to move, the waiting that felt like being forgotten, was never abandonment. It was the law, quietly, patiently, setting your assumption into place. Bridges of incident, Neville called them, the small, seemingly unrelated events that must arrange themselves before your assumption can appear as fact, are being built right now in places you cannot yet see, exactly as they were built for a broke man with no papers and no money who dared, against every outer appearance, to sleep as though he were already home. So hear this as a kind of prophecy, because I want you to remember it later, when it has already come true and you have almost forgotten you were ever told. In the next few days, something ordinary will arrive that once would have undone you completely. A bill you did not expect, a plan you had counted on, quietly falling apart. A person disappointing you in exactly the old familiar way. And you will notice something strange in yourself, something almost unfamiliar. You will feel nothing pulling you under. No spiral, no hours lost rehearsing it. Only a stillness you did not manufacture and cannot quite explain. And in that stillness, I want you to hear my voice again, the way you are hearing it now. God never gave you what you didn't want. He gave you what you kept asking for, in a language you finally learned to speak fluently, and you have simply stopped asking for that. Remember that I told you this. Before you sleep tonight, open Rewrite Tonight, the first link beneath this video, and give yourself the full 3 minutes it asks of you. Or comment Reset, and let it be more than a comment. Let it be a declaration that you are done being a subject of your circumstances, done borrowing power that was never anywhere but in you, done fearing what you yourself, without knowing it, have been quietly creating. You are the power. There is no other, and what you have feared, you have been commanding. But that ends tonight, the moment you decide it does. There is one more piece to this, though, that most teachers get exactly backward, and I want you to come back for it, because it completes everything I have given you here. They tell you to hold the wish until it comes true, but the truth is stranger and nearer than that. You do not hold an assumption until it comes true. You hold it until it feels natural, and it is precisely in that moment, right when it finally feels natural, that you will be most tempted to let it go, right at the door. Next time, I will show you why the last thing your old self does, before it finally leaves you for good, is convince you that none of this is working, exactly when it just did.